Subcommittee call. So thank you, Allison, for starting the recording, because I think this will certainly be a good coverage of multiple different topics. We're leading off today with Bob Lingard on determinations of attainment, the attainment date rules for the 2008-2015 ozone rules. He's going to be providing an update on the current EPA determination of attainment in areas classified as marginal by the 2015. Then we will move on to Lisa Thompson with EPA's OAQPS, giving us an update on the oil and natural gas methane rule, which should be coming out, I think, next month based on the timeline that I last saw. And she'll also be talking about anything that came out of the Small Business Advocacy Review Panel. And then we'll be wrapping up with Melanie King, also with EPA OAQPS, talking about some proposed amendments to the stationary engine rules. That's NESHAP subpart 4Z, as well as NSPS 4I and 4J. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Mr. Lingard.
Thank you, Donovan, and thanks everybody for having me this afternoon. I started my video, and I'm also going to share a screen with you. As I give you this update, I noticed when I describe these rulemakings to folks, there are quite a few.
You're a little bit quiet over there.
Oh, am I having an audio trip? Is it a?
I can hear you, but it's just a little quiet.
Okay, I will do my best to work with the computer audio. Is that a little bit better?
A little bit. Anybody else? It may just be my computer. So. Okay, Luke says it sounds fine to him, so it may just be my computer. So go right ahead. All right.
Well, I will provide a visual aid as well to guide the discussion here. Again, these rulemakings I'm going to update you on this afternoon have a number of moving parts, and I've found when I try to describe them without a visual aid, I may end up sounding like an auctioneer. So to mitigate that, I'm going to share with you some talking points today. So as a first step, I should ask, can folks see my document here with the talking points?
Yep, we're good.
Oh, terrific. Okay. Well, again, my name is Bob Lingard. I work within the Air Quality Policy Division within EPA's Office of Air Quality Planning and Standards. And when I came to EPA about 6 years ago, I plunged into the world of ozone implementation, and it got its hooks into me. So I am still with ozone implementation. I'm going to update you on a couple of rulemakings we have in progress for determinations of attainment for 2 ozone standards. Specifically, well, I should note as a preface, we're in kind of a unique position in ozone implementation history that we are implementing 2 ozone standards at the same time now, 2 active ozone standards, the 2008 ozone standard of 75 parts per billion and the 2015 ozone standard of 70 parts per billion. EPA, as a general matter, under all NAAQS or pollutant standards, has a mandatory obligation to determine when areas, whether the areas have attained by their applicable attainment dates. And here in this year, 2021, we find ourselves with 2 applicable attainment dates. We have those areas classified serious for the 2008 standard with an attainment date of July 20th of this year. And we have areas classified as marginal for the 2015 standard facing an attainment date of August 3rd of this year, with and a little bit later for San Antonio, as you can see there, September 24th. So this, under the Clean Air Act, we do have this mandatory obligation to determine whether these areas timely attained. Give you an acronym here. These determination of attainment by attainment date rulemakings, our shorthand term is DAD, and now it can be your shorthand term now as well. These DAD rules serve four primary functions. First of all, it's to determine those areas that have attained the ozone NAAQS by their applicable attainment dates. For those areas that have not attained, another function of these DAD rules is to act on any state requests for a one-year attainment date extension for areas that meet the criteria for that extension. And for those areas that failed to timely attain and whose states have not requested attainment extensions, those eligible areas eligible for attainment date extensions, we determine those areas that have failed to timely attain, and those areas, as we say, by operation of law, upon the final determination, get reclassified or bumped up to the next highest classification. In the case of the 2008 serious areas, the next higher classification would be severe. And of course, for our 2015 marginal areas, those areas would be bumped up to moderate. Sort of a fun fact, again, that flows out of us implementing 2 ozone standards at the first time. As some of you may recall, historically, we revoke ozone standards and implement one active standard. The means by which we revoked and established anti-backsliding requirements for revoked standards was challenged as part of the 2008 implementation rule, and the DC Circuit struck down our historical approach. That happened midstream while we were preparing the implementation rule for the 2015 standards, in which we were proposing to revoke the 2008 standard. That decision hit midstream during the preparation of that rule, and as a result, we did not finalize our proposed revocation of the 2008 ozone standard. So that brings us where we are now, implementing these 2 standards. So those first 3 functions, we figure out the ones that have timely attained. We act on requests for attainment date extensions for eligible areas. And 3, we figure out which areas have not timely attained. And upon finalizing those determinations, those areas would get bumped up. I guess the 4th piece of these DAD rules is to establish submittal and implementation deadlines for those SIP requirements that come due for our newly reclassified areas. So these newly reclassified severe areas for 2008 or moderate areas for 2015 will face a new set of SIP revision requirements. And we propose and finalize deadlines for the submittal and the implementation in these DAD rules. By way of quick background, our determinations of attainment or failure to attain are based on the design value for the 3-year period of 2018 through 2020. And I've provided a link here in my talking points. I should note that I'll coordinate with the organizers of this call and to share these talking points with you. You'll see that they have a number of resources and references that you can access. So getting down to our 4th bullet point here, for areas that meet certain criteria under the Clean Air Act, the state may request that they have a 1-year extension of the attainment date. That's if they're, in this case, for these areas, if they're 2020 air quality data, and here's a air quality statistic that we use for these extensions. The 4th highest daily maximum 8-hour average is at or below the level of the NAAQS. That is the first basic criterion for qualifying for an extension. The second being that the state is in compliance with its applicable state implementation plan, or SIP. This is typically accomplished by a state certification statement as part of their attainment request. With our 08, our 2015 areas, I can preview for you that we have received a request for an attainment date extension for the Houston area for the 2008 ozone standard, and for the Uinta Basin, Utah area for the 2015 standard. So when you see our proposed rule, you will see our proposed actions on those attainment date extensions. Now, getting back to those areas that did not timely attain and did not request or qualify for an attainment date extension. Those areas, as I noted, would, upon final determinations, would get bumped up to the next highest classification. I'm going to scroll down a little bit, so hopefully you can still see the content towards the bottom of the page. I should note that, as you'll recall, 2020 was a very active wildfire year, particularly in the West. And as a result, a number of areas, 2015 marginal areas in particular, the states have submitted or plan to submit exceptional events demonstrations, wherein, if approved or concurred upon by EPA, would allow monitoring data influenced by exceptional events such as wildfires to be taken out of consideration when we're determining whether these areas have timely attained. We also have a handful of areas that have submitted international transport demonstrations. This is under Clean Air Act Section 179B. And the gist of these demonstrations is that these areas would have attained, but for the influence of international emissions. And there is a regimented demonstration and approval process for that. Areas that make a successful 179B demonstration, although we determined that they have attained, but for a consequence of approving that demonstration is that while those areas remain in non-attainment, they do not get reclassified or bumped up to the next classification. So as you will see in the forthcoming proposals, there are a number of, we'll address a number of areas that have made those 179B demonstrations. Finally, as I noted before, the fourth big function of these DAD rules is to establish the submittal and the implementation deadlines for the SIP revisions that come due for these newly reclassified areas. So in the case of our 2015 marginal areas that get bumped up to moderate, they will be facing initial reasonable available control technology or RACT requirements. They are marginal areas that are already implementing non-attainment new source review programs will face a more stringent emissions offset ratio to offset new emissions with emission reductions from existing sources in their area. So we're bumping them up into new requirements. I should note that moderate areas also face a basic vehicle inspection and maintenance requirement. And what I can preview for you in these upcoming rulemakings is that a number of our 2015 marginal areas provide, for example, San Antonio and Detroit as examples. We have a number of areas that have not implemented basic vehicle I&M before, so that you will see that addressed in our upcoming proposals. For our serious areas that are being bumped up to severe, this brings in some new requirements. For example, a Clean Air Act Section 185 penalty fee program for severe areas that fail to attain. So in the event this newly reclassified severe area fails to attain, major sources within that area would be subject to the Section 185 fee program. That fee program is submitted as a SIP revision for the severe bump up area. So that's to give you a flavor. And I guess I should note also, again, when we bump up the familiar SIP elements such as non-attainment new source review and RACT, face and certainly in the case of serious to severe, our major source threshold drops from 50 tons per year for serious area major sources to 25 tons per year. So that basically expands the universe of potentially affected major sources subject to RACT or non-attainment new source review. So that's a flavor of SIP submissions. a new development here I wanted to share with you, and I can at least preview for you in general terms with both of our DAD proposals for 2008 Serious and 2015 Marginal, is per the President's executive orders in January, and I provide 1395 there and 14008, flowing down into our EPA administrators' directives this spring. We are directed to consider potential environmental justice concerns as part of these rulemaking actions for underserved communities in these areas. So I wanted to preview this for you with these rulemaking actions. You'll see it addressed in a number of aspects, but I would offer in preview for you that one place, for example, would be in our consideration of requests for one-year attainment date extensions. A feature in the Clean Air Act requirements for that is that states may request and the director may grant these extensions. So per the Clean Air Act, there's an element of discretion here. And that's one place in these proposals that we are considering and actually planning to consider environmental justice concerns. Finally, we're on the clock with our mandatory Clean Air Act obligation. We are, under statute, we are required to finalize our determinations, publish these final rules within 6 months of the applicable attainment date. So we're just past the July 20th attainment date for the 2008 serious areas. We are we are past the August 3rd deadline for the 2015 marginal areas. That starts a 6-month clock that we push very hard to hit our final rule deadlines. I think those of you who have studied us and watched us and are students of our past determination rules, you know that we have rarely been able to hit those statutory deadlines. But I guess what I would share with you is that it's front of mind, and particularly as we take in a number of new considerations in these rulemakings, we're pushing very hard to hit those deadlines, or certainly as close as we can. So that's my general update for you. And at the bottom of this pager that I'm happy to share with y'all, there are a number of resources here, including places you can go for area details, design values, past DAD actions, as well as background on EPA's approach to environmental justice. So with that, I'm happy to pause and take any questions.
All right, excellent, thank you. So do we have any questions out there? Either turn on your mic or put them in chat.
That may have approached my auctioneer pace, but I've tried some moderate myself. So
yeah, I do appreciate you sending out the information earlier. I sent it out during the meeting, but I'll also attach it to the minutes once we finish those up.
And I should note, obviously, part of us pushing to hit our statutory deadline for the final rules is that we are pushing to get these proposals out as soon as possible. And on our current schedule, I'm anticipating signature mid to late October at this point. So keep your eyes peeled, and I'm sure we'll communicate out updates through this forum as well with my EPA colleagues.
Okay, excellent.